Hey dudes, it's Lerald. Incursion farming is one of the best strategies in the game right now, but the preferred setup for it requires using the Gull, which is a unique helmet that makes shrine buffs last longer. For a lot of builds, including the armor stacker build that we put a guide out on late last week, you don't have that level of flexibility in your helm slot. So we've gotten the question, can this build do Alva? A lot since putting that video out, and why not make a video about it? So let's just get right into it, but first be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join our Discord. There is a link to it in the description. And just as a note on YouTube comments, we are still a two-person channel. As always, I'm talking right now, but Sunset is usually the one in the comments section. We really make an effort to answer all of the YouTube comments and questions, at least for the time being, so ask away. And if you have follow-up questions after we've given our initial response, those are a lot harder to see in YouTube's comment management system, so you're better off joining the Discord and talking to us there. Alright, let's start with the strat. First off, credit to Fubgun for making up this strategy and popularizing it. I started combining Evolution and Invasion Scarabs very early on in the league, and I really liked the results. It's a great set of bonuses. You create tons of monsters through the combination of these Scarabs, and I got pretty close to figuring out the whole shebang here, but I never quite got that final step of including Alva incursions as a way to be just a massive multiplier over the top of everything else, and that really is the most important part. It's like the root beer in a root beer float, right? Anyways, running this strategy successfully requires a very specific setup, both outside and inside of your maps. If you skip any steps or cut any corners, it may completely suck, and especially if you're trying to make this work without the goal, it really requires a very specific set of behaviors inside of your maps. So in terms of what we're actually getting here is just tons of monsters, like well over 10,000 in every single map. And this requires specific Scarabs, it requires combining specific league mechanics in a certain way, but it acts as a humongous multiplier for tier 16.5 more currency mods. And I mean a humongous multiplier. I'm making multiple divines in every single map very easily. Now, because of the way that this strategy works, you have some very specific map mods that you need to avoid, and I want to start off by talking about those and then move on to the technique of running the maps and then the tree setup and Scarabs and so on. So first off, the number one most unplayable map mod is this final one on this tier 17 map. Buffs on players expire 100% faster. There's also a tier 16 version of this. I think it's 70% faster. Both of these map mods are absolutely banned. You have to maintain a shrine buff while you're in incursions in order for this strategy to be even close to as effective as it is, and if you let the shrine buff fall off, whether through dying or crashing, both of which happened to me once each, or just simply because the buff expired 300% faster due to massive scaling from map mod effect, then this just basically is a strategy that doesn't work at all. So this is an absolutely banned map mod under all circumstances. The second map mod that I think really has to be banned is the final one here. Rare monsters have volatile cores. Again, you're going to be killing hundreds, if not thousands of rares in every single map, and if you're having to dodge hundreds, if not thousands of volatile cores, you're gonna die. This is a pretty good strategy for experience. Like, I died one time, and I started at 0%. I only did like 15 or 18 maps or something, 15 maps actually, and I'm at 50% of the way through 99 off of this strategy. I also made millions of gold doing this, so really, really good XP. Definitely don't want to be doing volatile cores because that's just a way to delete your character, basically. Then the next modifier is the next to bottom one down here. This is not absolutely hard banned. If you're playing a trickster or just a very, very high action speed build, you can get away with it, but reduced action speed for each time you've used a skill recently is brutal. The goal here is to move fast. You need to be quick. And so that, and then the final map mod on this tier 16.5, players and their minions deal no damage for 3 out of every 10 seconds, are horrendous. This one is actually worse than the reduced action speed. I would say this 3 out of every 10 seconds you can't do damage is just about as bad as anything other than like buffs expiring faster, because it makes you super slow, really makes it hard to get your like maximum value out of your shrines. And then this one at the bottom of this tier 17, rare monsters in the area are shaper touched. It's not as bad. it's not good. Shaper Touch monsters used to have huge quantity and rarity bonuses associated with them. They don't anymore, so it's just like a lot of extra danger. Again, you're going to be fighting hundreds of Shaper Touched monsters at every map, so it's going to be harder. But if your build is strong, you know, you'll be able to handle this no problem. Now, one thing that every single build in the entire game can use in order to make the shrine buffs last longer is Runegraft of the Warp. There are a lot of other mechanics for making buffs last longer on you. Temporal chains on the maps, maybe self-temp chains, something like that. That could be a little bit advanced. I think Solstice Vigil, that's a pretty hard to fit in mechanic, but I guess you could use Solstice Vigil, get Shaper's Presence, and make things last longer on yourself. I think the main way to do it, though, is just Runegraft of the Warp. That's the easiest way to make sure that buffs last on you longer. Alright, so now let's actually talk about the technique of running these maps. And so what you're going to want to do first off is you're going to want to roll maps so that you have a minimum of like 100% more currency. I would say more than that is really ideal. I rolled quite a lot of maps. I rolled over 20 maps. Before I started up this strategy, I wanted to do multiples of 3. I started out with just 20 and realized like, oh yeah, that didn't really make sense. And I thought I would just run them for a while until I felt like I kind of had a decent answer. And at 15 maps, even before 15 maps, I think less than 10 maps in, I was like, oh yeah, this is working. And so I said, I think 15 maps is a very small sample size, but it's more than enough because it was so consistent from map to map. So I had a few maps that were in the 250% more currency or more range. I think for maps where you go like over 300% currency, I think that you could even use some of these Maven Chisels of Avarice. Those are pretty nice. I think if you use those on a map that's over 300%, then you'll be over 400%. And once that gets multiplied by map mod effect, you're going to be looking at like 600 to 700% more currency. You're going to be able to find tons and tons and tons of divines in those maps. Another bit of setup that's important to do outside of your map is to move Alva over in front of your map device so you don't accidentally open up a map when your temple is fully built. Alright, so that's the setup you want to do before you go into the maps. Now for the setup once you're in the maps, the way that you'll want to play the maps is enter the map, fully clear it out, take all the currency duplication and quantity player mods that you can. On the armor stacker, I did avoid any player modifiers, even quantity and currency duplications that had reduced defenses per frenzy charge, just really dislike that modifier, and then also minus physical reduction. I avoided those two downsides on all player mods, but otherwise all the currency duplication and quant that I can get. And then, you know, rarity's fine, scarab duplications, not really a big deal. We're really not hunting for scarabs with this strategy at all. So while you're clearing the maps, you want to make sure not to pick up any of the evolution shrines that you come across. That's going to be really important for min-maxing the value of the incursions. So you've cleared everything in the map, you have your incursions, you want to figure out exactly where all 4 of them are relative to the 2 shrines. Basically minimize the amount of travel time that you're doing in the maps. Then you want to open one of the incursions up, go pick up a shrine buff, bring it back, go in, full clear the incursion as quickly as you can, make your way to the second incursion, clear that out as well as you can, try to use all of the shrine buff. You know, the goal really is to clear both of the incursions out before the shrine buff has fallen off. And this is what we're having to do because of lacking the goal and because of not being just outrageously fast. I think a faster build would probably be able to do this a little bit more easily. Certainly having the goal, being able to make the shrine buffs last considerably longer would make it easier to get all 4 of the incursions in a single shrine buff, but it's just not practical without the goal. And so by using, you know, 2 incursions with 1 shrine buff, 2 incursions with the other shrine buff, I think we're basically doing the best we can, and every single second counts. So I really do like to make sure that the area between the incursions is cleared out, make sure there are no mobs like, you know, stragglers hanging around, make sure that the incursion is already opened up before I go get the shrine buff, so I'm not wasting 3 seconds on Alva waiting for her to open up the incursion. As soon as I get into the incursion, like, you're immune, but your buffs are ticking down, so I'm moving the second that my character is loaded in. Every second really counts here. I don't stop to loot anything once I've finished the first incursion in a set of 2 either. I just immediately make a beeline to the next one. I'm really locked in on all of that. That is crucial for min-maxing the value of each of those shrine buffs. All right, now let's talk about the tree. So this is mostly a standard tree setup for this strategy. We're taking the shrine nodes that are essential to guarantee that we're able to like have maximum uptime on the Domination Scarab of Evolution shrines, those evolving shrines. So we're taking all of these shrine duration buff mods down here. We are getting an extra shrine out of Supplication, sometimes a third or fourth shrine out of the small passives, but we're not bothering up here with the small passives. We don't really care about getting one extra shrine in a map that's going to have, you know, like a few thousand monsters within the regular parts of the map, and then thousands and thousands of monsters inside the incursions. We're taking all the map mod effect nodes. All of those are, of course, mandatory. You know, we want to min-max all the more currency and quantity and pack size, of course. We're also taking Eater of Worlds stuff. I'm doing Eater of Worlds altars, but I'm not doing all of the pack size because, frankly, I just need the points for other stuff. We're using a combination of Incursion and Beyond to spawn massive amounts of monsters, and then we're also taking all of the Settlers of Kalgur stuff. You know, this combination of bonuses where you're taking basically all the points you can to just try and make as many bismuth nodes spawn as possible, and then using bismuth to add more monster modifiers, elemental modifiers onto all the magic and rare monsters in your maps. This has a really huge effect on the amount of stuff that they drop when you find bismuth nodes early in the map. That's huge. That's definitely a big part of the technique of running the map, is hunting those bismuth nodes down quickly, ideally. I will say the non-bismuth nodes from Settlers League, some people will skip them. I kind of recommend doing them. I got like 4 raw divines out of non-bismuth Settlers mechanics, so I had a pretty good experience with them, and I like them mechanically as well. We're taking all the stuff we need to make Beyond spawn in our maps as well. These 3 points here for chance to be spawn Beyond demons, and Endless Tide and Scent of Blood, so we get as many demons as possible, the small passive here. And then we're taking Pale Clarion to try and get as many followers of Baydat, as many basic currency items out of them as we can. We're taking a quantity here as well. And then we're taking all of the Alva nodes, with the exception of Treasure Hunt, which gives cursed treasures. Totally irrelevant, don't care about that at all. And then Vol Oligarchs. The Vol Flesh Merchant's actually not bad. It is a unique monster, so it will help spawn some more demons through Beyond. But it's one guy. He is one of those guys who like phases and goes invisible and runs away, and he's very irritating to fight, so he's really not worth the time at all, and not worth the point. Now, what I'm doing that's very different from the way that Fubgun and most people do this is I'm actually taking the small passives that are useful for constructing good Alva temples in the hopes of making and selling good Alva temples. I like making and selling good Alva temples, so I want these 3 points. I think they're worth it. Even at the expense of some other points, I think it's worth it. Part of this is because we're doing a goal-less strategy, so we are trying to, like, you know, kind of scrape together a little bit more currency out of this, even if it means spending a few seconds longer in each incursion, like making sure we're doing the correct guy. I think it's worth it. I think if you were doing a goal strategy where you really are getting like a little bit more currency out of every map or every incursion, maybe you wouldn't care about this, but I do. So one of the reasons that this strategy works so well is time dilation, this 33% chance for all the incursion monsters to be at least magic. This applies to all the monsters in the incursion, I think including the Beyond Demons. As far as I could tell, it looked like all the Beyond Demons were spawning in magic, although it is hard to tell. Either way, you're just getting so many magic level monsters that you're then able to very easily turn into rares through the Evolution Scarab, and then turn those into Beyond Demons through the Beyond Scarab of Invasion. And let's now take a look at Scarabs for, you know, exactly that reason. So we have Incursion Scarab of Champions, 15% increased pack size, 35% chance for all the monsters in the incursion to be magic, and you can have 2 of these. This is mandatory, right? And this is the reason that this strategy works so well. You run 2 of these, you have 100% magic monsters in the incursions, 30% pack size in the incursions, that I think also stacks with some pack size in this area right here of the tree. So you're getting, yeah, like 45% pack size in the incursion on top of the already high pack size out of your tier 16.5 maps that are going to be running like 80% pack size or so. So humongous packs full of monsters in every incursion. And then you take the Domination Scarab of Evolution, which makes you have 2 evolving shrines in each map. These are vital for this strategy to work. You convert magic monsters into rares by killing them, and then those rare monsters, when you kill them because of Beyond Scarab of the Invasion, will spawn Beyond portals. The Beyond monsters will then be magic and rare. You can kill them. They won't respawn more Beyond portals, but they are magic and rare monsters, and so, you're able to kill the magic ones and convert those into rares with the Evolving Shrine. And you just get this kind of feedback loop of killing monsters that then turn into more monsters that then spawn more monsters, and then you're able to kill those. So you really just get to like triple or quadruple dip on the amount of monsters that are in your incursions. As for the map device, what you want to run is Settlers. This is so you can get more chances at Bismuth. Bismuth ore nodes, that's actually the most valuable option on the tree or on the map device by far. All right, now let's take a look at my results. This was only 15 maps. I know it's a small sample size. I sat down and mathed out, how much each map would cost. All of this stuff was stuff that I self-farmed, but the cost of the maps, just to kind of walk through it a bit here, the Beyond Scarab of the Invasion is basically free. The Evolution Scarabs are maybe like 2 chaos each, so we could say like 5 chaos between the 2 of those, and then 3 for the map device. And then Invasion or Incursion Scarabs of Champions are about 20 each, so we could round up and say generously that it's like 50 chaos for all of the Scarabs, and yeah, I mean, that's maybe a little high, but that's fine. So 50 chaos for that. So tier 16.5 Dunes maps, which is what I was running, again, all of which I self-farmed, they're about 0.7 divines each, and then between rolling them and maybe exalted orbing them and then hitting them with delirium orbs, I think they all cost roughly a divine each. So we could say 15 divines plus what's 50 times 15, like 750. And I think divine orbs have actually gone down a bit recently, so let's just go ahead and check right now. Wow, 145. All right. We could say 5 divines plus about 15. So we could say about 20 divines or so spent in setting up this strategy. Ultimately, I think that's roughly what my costs were, somewhere around 20 divines to set up 15 maps. Not too terribly expensive. And then as you can see, I made 100 divines in the span of only 15 maps. 30 of that came from the apothecary. So, yeah, okay, right. Like, I don't necessarily feel like fair counting that, but even if we were to say 71 divines, then 71 minus 20. So I made 51 divines in the span of 15 maps of pure profit. 3.5 divines a map. Pretty good. I also, like I said before, I had a death in one incursion. It was just a very, very, very bad map. It had like Fizz's extra damage, and then also like minus 39 max res or something, just really brutal. And then another one was a really easy map that I just crashed in. I zoned into the incursion. I crashed immediately. Very frustrating. Both of those were the first portal of a map, which is pretty irritating on its own. And then I do think they cut my profits down quite a bit. I would estimate I probably lost like 3 to 5 divines out of that. So we might even be looking at more like 3.5 to 4 divines a map if that hadn't occurred. So that's really good, right? 3.5 divines profit on spending about whatever, 1.5, 1 1/3 divines per map. Like, that's pretty good. You're more than doubling your money. Yeah, quite easily. The issue is in the maps per hour. So I was doing this at the fastest. I was maybe taking 10 minutes a map, which is not super fast. And if we say, 6 maps an hour, that's like 20 divines an hour. It's not bad. It's certainly not bad, but it's not insane. Like, if we look at what all's in here, other than the apothecary, it's 14 raw divines, 17 Valdos, 1,336 chaos. That's kind of a bummer. And then 4 temples that have a Locus of Corruption in them. This one actually has a Locus of Corruption and a Doriani's Institute, so this might be a little undervalued at only 2 divines. It certainly would sell very quickly. You can't really get that much more for it, maybe 2.5 divines. So maybe I'm being shorted here by like a divine or something by Wealthy Exile. That's fine though. I did update my filter, my loot filter, to remove some of the less valuable currency. Like you can see, I have some blacksmith's whetstones in here that I stopped looting these after a bit. But I did like loot a bunch of like low value currency that I converted into chaos along the way. Like I just went and sold it at Faustus, and I got a ton of gold out of this strategy as well. I was getting like 250,000 gold in every single map. Also getting a ton of uniques, just like fun, cool uniques: Gravebind, Cloak of Flame, Chevrons, High Resire. You know, a lot of stuff in here that's kind of interesting, I suppose. I definitely was very pleased by the way that the strategy like worked out. The return on it, the efficiency was all very, very impressive. I really just felt like I needed to be clearing the maps faster than I was, and maybe that's a reflection on the build that I'm playing, that it's really tuned more for like less fast moving, even harder hitting content. I don't know. All right, one thing I just kind of noticed here as I was like going through my tab is that I have 13 tier 16.5 maps that obviously didn't get calculated in by Wealthy Exile. So, you know, maybe that undercuts the value a little bit. Like if I were to say even lowball on all these, that they're worth half a divine each, 6.5 divines plus the, 51 that I was saying before. So yeah, you know, I guess that would put me closer to 4 divines per map in terms of profit. I think the biggest like positive of this strategy is that it is raw currency, right? Like I am just generating like massive amounts of chaos orbs specifically, and 14 raw divines in the span of 15 maps, 17 Valdos puzzle boxes in 15 maps, like very, very consistently getting lots and lots of currency items. So that is good. That is like something that a lot of these other strategies that I've enjoyed doing and have made comparable amounts of currency haven't necessarily been able to say that those currency strategies have actually generated raw currency orbs. There usually is some sort of friction trading mechanic that has to happen as well in order for them to be this profitable. Finally, I'll just end by talking a bit about maps. I think tier 16.5s are mandatory. I think doing this in 17s or in just regular 16s would be like pretty much a waste. I did choose to run Dunes because it's what I had, but I think Jungle Valley would be a bit better. I think it's a bit tighter, so it'd be easier to like not waste as much time moving from the incursions to the incursions when you still have the shrine buff up, or just getting the shrine buff and getting the first incursion would be a bit quicker in Valley, I think. All right, so that's Alva. I was really pleased by how profitable this strategy was in terms of currency per map and the return on investment. It's a really, really efficient strategy even without the goal. Making 3 divines per map in pure profit is really impressive. The only real issue I have is the speed. I think doing it without the goal is not bad. I think if I could clear faster, it would be quite a lot better. Maybe that's on me, maybe that's on the build I'm playing. Maybe I need to be playing a trickster build, something that it cannot have its action speed slowed. Maybe that really would change things around. But as it is, I have done better strategies this league. The Maven speed mapping strategy from a couple weeks ago was like 25 to 30 divines per hour, and the content was easier. So I think that this strategy without the goal is competitive, but not the absolute best. With that being said, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked the amount of gold and XP I got out of it, so I'm definitely going to spend more time doing it. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord so you can say hello to me and Sunset if you haven't already. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more PoE content, become a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.